Hello and welcome to Bar Napkin Business. I'm Allie.
I'm Matt.
Today we are talking to Luke Hansen from Company Cam, and before I get into the interview with Luke, I just gotta say, when we interviewed him, he had this really gnarly mustache. I don't know if he gets paid to get his picture taken, but if you're looking for someone that has a very characteristic...
He looks like a bare knuckle boxer.
He does.
Right, in the
he
1930s
does.
bare knuckle boxer.
With those like striped, like there was one back in the day where they had like the striped swimsuit where he had that mustache. Yeah. So we really enjoyed our interview with Luke. He actually had come from a family roofing business, found a problem there, and decided that he could fix it himself. So Matt, was there something that you really like about the interview?
Well, a lot of his just theses in general hit home with me, and it just reiterated the fact that it's all the same. Every business, it's usually just boils down to a few principles. And his were hiring, a big part that came out of this with hiring and what they look for when they hire, attitude and effort. And the people matter more than the product matters. It's just a reoccurring theme we keep seeing. Yep. And it was fun to chat with Luke because dude's got it.
Yep. Well, I think it's interesting that a lot of these things, he kept saying they sound cliche, but they're cliches because it's like, I think we know them, but we don't often do them, right?
Yeah. Today joining us is Luke Hansen, owner of Company Cam.
Yep, so I come from the roofing industry. My dad, he's got a master's degree, but then he decided to start a roofing company when I was 1 year old. And so I've basically been doing roofing my whole life. I mean, I started I'm picking up the ground and then I'm ripping off the shingles. Then you get promoted to the guy that gets to nail down the shingles, which is way above the guy down here, and that's a proud position. So I did kind of all the jobs.
Growing up.
Yeah, I started 14, 13, ish, and then through high school and into college. And then by college, I think I was doing sales. I was eventually tasked with managing people, and I wanted my guys to be taking more photos because, we can't be out at every job site running around all the time. Right. And so I started looking around. I was like, well, everyone's got a smartphone. There's got to be a way to make this simpler for us to kind of keep track of what's going on. And I just I could not find anything. So finally, I think I was listening to a podcast or something, and I thought hey, we could build something to do this. We don't have to wait for someone else to do it or whatever. And so that's how Company Cam started. It was we were having a problem, and the thought was, we're not the only people with this issue. Yeah. And so, that's how I kind of came into technology. We started, I think the very end of 2014 is when I started working on the idea, and then Company Cam became a thing March. Actually, we launched in July of 2015.
What do you mean became a thing? You had a website, or you got money, or?
So, we originally, I just hired some developer, actually Agilix, local development shop. I just called him up and hired him. I didn't even tell my dad. I just they're $10,000? Let's do it. To build a kind of the MVP, a test version of Company Cam. And through that process, I decided that this could be a company. As opposed to being a little software tool that we use internally, this could be something that other people would want to use. And so then I hired Chad, who was working at Huddle. He's our CTO, in March of 2015. And then we launched Company Cam as its own legal entity, as a company in July of 2015. We were targeting contractors. And so anyone that would come and work on your house, air conditioning guy, roofer, plumber, pool builders. We have one guy that moves houses. He takes old houses and moves them across states, and he uses Company Cam to document that process. So really, it's overwhelmingly it's contractors. Then we found with distributors. So for example, 84 Lumber, they are dropping off a bunch of materials at job sites. That needs to be documented with photos.
That it's there and in good
condition
and all that stuff, right?
They don't want to have an argument with their customer over, well, did we actually deliver what we said we did? Maybe someone came in the night and stole something. Who is responsible for damaging this? So from their perspective, Company Cam does, you snap a photo, it geocodes that and connects it to that project. And so contractors are always working at different locations.
Right.
So it connects it to that project, and then it's time-stamped, dated, and you know who took it. And so it's a real kind of cover your ass tool for these guys. So they document when they deliver the material, what the state of it was. So later, there's just no arguments. Like if there's some dispute, hey, well, this is where we left it, and that's that.
And then how do you price it?
Right.
We do a per user. So that's a hard thing. Pricing is like the least scientific. Like I spent a lot of time. That's how we've always done it.
Okay.
We started at $8 a user. Now we're at $12 a user. So basically, it's $12 a user, and then it's unlimited photo storage a month.
Okay.
Yep, $12 a month a user, unlimited photo storage. So we store all the photos in the cloud for our customers. And the nice thing being, so you're out taking pictures of toilets all day or something. You don't necessarily want that mixed in with your personal photos of your kids, like doing cartwheels. And so we store all the photos in the cloud, not on their phone. So they're saving their space.
Right.
But like thinking about pricing is just hard, and trying to put
It's
a value
ultimately what
on
the
it.
market will bear, right?
Exactly.
And as you grow and mature, it's test and
Yes.
mess with. And maybe we're too high here and we're too
Yes.
low here. And
Right.
Yep. And we think like pricing on value, or like most people think you're pricing on what it costs you to make it.
Right.
With software, that's kind of weird because you got a bunch of fixed costs that you just have to pay, and then like we sign up with one other company that doesn't really cost anything to do that,
right.
but you had to build this
value
whole
for them.
infrastructure.
Right.
And so the right way to do it is to price on value, and the right price is what someone is willing to
Right.
pay you. We found like we feel pretty good about it, but it's a constantly changing thing, and it's not like you can look up blogs and podcasts that'll tell you best practices of this and customer support and how you should set up your testing environment server, like anything you can think of. And then you get to pricing, and it's like you have to go out and you have to talk to real people and figure out what they're willing to pay. And you can't even really ask, because people will tell you they're willing to pay
Oh,
when
they
they're
will never
not
follow
willing to
through
pay.
on what
Yeah,
they
like
say.
you really have to find out people actually pay. And I mean, even among our customers, some people are like, "Oh my gosh, that's too much," or something. And then I see someone had shared something on Facebook the other day, and a bunch of our customers were commenting, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's dirt cheap for what you get. It's worth every penny."
Yeah.
And that's what you want to hear, but you're never going to please everyone, and so you've got to figure out where does it sit. And I haven't been too scientific about it.
So tell us a little bit about your team. How big is it? What's your role? What are their roles?
Yeah, so I think we're up to 14 or 15 people, and we've got a couple interns starting here in the next couple weeks.
Is that what that means?
No, not
Dang it.
free. No, we pay a living wage,
Fine.
unlike some politicians. No, not for free. We're planning on growing. Like we're in 2 offices right now, which is not ideal, because I really like there's just real value in having everyone together, so that the engineers can hear what the salespeople are hearing from the customers in the field and kind of keep that tight loop.
Right.
But yeah, like what I've learned, you learn a lot. Like you start a business, you can like have ideas of how things are going to go, but what I've learned through the process is that it is all about the people. That's the only thing that matters. You can have the best idea ever, but if you can't find the right people to help you execute it, people that are better than you, like every time if I hire someone, I'm really excited when they do it better than I would do it, because it's like, oh, that's great. I don't have to think about that anymore because they know what they're doing.
It doesn't matter who's right. It matters that you get it right.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And like, the people build the product which the customers use, and like you get the right people, you've just got a really good shot. You need a good idea. Like there's
There's a lot there.
yeah,
Right.
like it's not like just the simplest thing, but hiring is hard. I mean, you're convincing people to leave what was probably a good job to come and work at a startup in this case, which, I mean, we're doing well, like things are feeling good, but the future's uncertain. We didn't have to go this kind of standard route of trying to raise money and
So how did you start? I like
so
this. Step 1, step 2, step 3.
exactly.
kind of
So
thing.
I mean, had this idea. And we kind of started building this prototype. And as we were talking about it and saw how
on
useful
White
it was,
Castle done,
yes,
right? You're already
yes.
you're still in the
Yep,
base.
at White Castle, I'm sitting, even when Chad, our CTO, started, our first employee, we were sitting in the back of White Castle Roofing, you know, like just working. We decided, hey, this can be a thing. Like, we should really try to go for this. Exactly, and our thought was, we would rather not raise money until we have to raise money. And so it's basically, it was initially funded by White Castle Roofing, essentially my family.
Yeah.
So I have 2 brothers, my dad, we all were working at White Castle Roofing. And so it was kind of like, let's just do this and try to kind of bring that practicality from running a roofing company to running a technology company, which I didn't really know anything about, but I just knew, like, you can't spend way more money than you make, like, or, you know, you need to kind of go along this path. Now, the economics of a software thing are just different than the economics of a roofing company. But a lot of the principles of how you do business and who are good people to work with, and just start going down that list, like, it's the same stuff.
All the same.
Like,
Right.
and like, but you do, that was the hard thing, I don't know how hard it was, but kind of internalizing the economics of a monthly payment business as opposed to almost like a job costing business. Like a roofing, you go do the job, you pay people to do it, you buy the shingles, then you need to get paid more than you spent on that job. Otherwise, you're out of business really quick.
Right.
And this is more of kind of an investment you build. As people start using it, they tell other people, and it's just different. But
Right. Yep.
So let's dig into you a little bit. What's your day-to-day? Do you have a title?
just kind of know what's going on and help with making sure everyone's going in the right direction. That we understand what we're trying to do. Because, like, for example, my designer is putting something together for a new feature. You know, and I've struggled with this, which is sitting over his shoulder and being like, hey, what if we did this? You know, which doesn't really help. But having, like, this is the goal, this is what we're trying to do, these are the things that are important, so that we can agree on that, and then how we get there, you know, we will work out. But I'm talking to the marketing guys, the sales team, the development team. Yeah, and I'm kind of, I'm trying to just make sure all the pieces are fitting together and that we have a solid direction. And then and that's the hard thing about going from being an employee to being like the boss or running something is no one's telling you what to do.
Right.
You got to figure out what to do, and that's a lot of fun. I like the kind of open-ended problem of how are we going to do this? You know, like there's no straight path. We just have to figure it out. Things are constantly coming up.
When people think that because you're the boss, you can just make your schedule and have all this freedom and guide your life, and what do you
it's
say
the
to
ultimate
people?
catch-22. I mean, like it sounds like cliche, but like when you become the person who's in charge, your responsibilities go up, and so your freedom kind of goes down. I mean, in a way, it's up because I can decide whatever we want to do, but at the same time, it's like I don't ever want to expect my people to do something that either I'm not willing to do, or, like try to set the example and say like this is how we're going to do it. And
you've already said so many things that are like just core theses that I truly believe in too. Just the only way to scale is find people that are better than you and let them be good and get out of their way. And if you do everything, you can't grow, because there's only so many hours in a day still, and that kind of stuff. So it's leveraging other people's talents and time.
A business is people. Like any organization, like we think of it like, oh, like Nike or like even Apple, big brands, like that doesn't even exist. It's just a bunch of people that show up at a building that agree to work together on something.
What is your strength? Would you say a business skill set?
Yeah, I that's hard. I think inspiring people to some degree, that sounds really cheesy. Almost like setting a vision of like, hey, this is what I think is possible. This is what I think we can do. So let's do it. Like I'm bad with organization, details, like keeping track of stuff. Like I'm laughably inept when it comes to that. Whereas like to me, problem solving. Like I just like thinking about interesting, like those word problems you have to do for things that are kind of lame, and I love that stuff. Trying to figure out why things are the way they are, why certain things work, why they don't work. I think I'm pretty good at that, and I like it.
This is honestly, it's just a reoccurring theme that we keep hearing, and,
Right.
it's ultimately putting pieces in the places to succeed, right? And that
Right.
includes people and location and where we market, and it's not, it's kind of the big picture. It's the North Star, we know where we're going, how do we get to that place,
Right.
and moving the pieces around.
And letting them know that there's a possibility to get there as opposed to the roadblocks. Like they see the roadblocks and you're like, those are good opportunities. Let's work through those.
Yes, yeah, like in just that keeping that positive. I mean, it's not like positive at all costs necessarily, but it's just like the optimistic, like we're going for this big thing. It's doable. We can do it. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like when we get there. We don't know what's going to come up in the way, but like we have to keep moving because excuses don't matter. The more you get hung up on like some excuse that you're giving yourself or some reason why it can't work or something that's unfair, like it's not fair, it's just the way it is, and you just have to keep going. And it's not like we're doing well, things are going great, but there's been plenty of times where it just feels like it just sucks. Like things are kind of going wrong. Yeah, you're like, are we doing this right? Is anyone going to use this?
So let's go into that. Specifically, what's been difficult
Yeah.
for you over the last 24, 36 months?
Yeah, finding people that's just been a lot of like work and time, and that's always hard because I care about getting the right people. There's this general just anxiety when you're running something, I think, that you're just worried about it. Like, am I making the right decisions? Am I is what I'm going to do as the leader going to screw over everyone that's working here, and is the whole thing going to fall apart? And trying to make sure that that's not the case. And it took us a while to get some initial customers, and then it was like slower than I wanted to, and you kind of had this dream of like, oh yeah, like everyone's going to understand why this is going to be so great for them. And then you kind of find out that it's a grind. You've got to just grind through it. You get some wins, and then just like building on that all the time. But like for me, when I was an employee, I cared about the business, but I didn't worry about the business.
Right.
And that was a transition. Like now it's a worry. It's in the back of my mind. If I'm watching Netflix or something, I'm like, should I be working on that?
Let's dive into hiring a little bit more. I want to hear your thesis on this. Do you hire the right person and they're right and you just kind of get them to go along, or can you change behavior and you can maneuver through? Maybe we hired the wrong person. We can coach them up to be a better version.
For like hiring software developers, it's maybe a little different than hiring salespeople, but like for me, like one, you've got to be someone that we all want to work with, that, can get along in the office. Yes, like because I just like, I want to make money. I want to do something successful, but I don't want to show up to work every day with people that I don't want to hang out with. And so I feel like we've done a great job of like, we get along, we have fun, and so that's like kind of the first thing. It's like, am I cool with sitting in the office with this person for the next 5 years and hanging out with them? But I'm huge on like attitude, kind of hard work / hustle, and not the intangibles, but basically like you can learn how to do something if you have the right attitude and you're willing to work at it. And like you're going to be, depending on what it is, you're going to be bad at it for a while.
Right.
Like I was the worst. I played the drums. I'm still not very good, but I was totally terrible. People heard me. It was embarrassing. But unless you can push through that, like you don't know what you're doing and you're willing to just do it and be bad and get better, you're not going to go anywhere. I've never cold called 100 people in a day before to try it. And like, it's my company and I know what I'm talking about and I know about roofing and I'm still nervous to do it. And I'm going to suck at it. And I did. I was terrible, horrible. And it was kind of embarrassing. Yeah, you get into a little, and then you kind of like, you practice, you get better, and all of a sudden it's working. Originally, I tried to find some contractors and some people who were specialists at, I've built 10 Android apps and I really know what I'm doing. And what I found there is that it's much better to get someone who's super good problem solver and learner and they'll figure it out. Like, they may not be the actual expert in making Android apps right now, but they've got the tools that they need to do that. And so kind of just broadening, instead of looking specifically for the guy who's done this and knows this really well, finding the person who is ready to adapt and learn, because especially when it comes to software, it's always changing. Like, it's not, you can't just, oh, I know how to code now and I'll be good for the next 20 years. Because we know in 5 years, like, I don't know, are we all going to be wearing VR goggles and having this conversation? I don't know what's going to happen.
Do you have any advice for a budding entrepreneur?
I guess my advice would be around, it's the people, stupid. Like, it's, your idea matters, like, to some degree, but if you really want to be an entrepreneur, it's not about you coming up with this awesome idea and just hustling it out and it's all like your success. It's like, you have to find people, smart, hardworking, awesome people, and then you have to be able to convince them to work with you on something. And if you can convince a couple smart, hardworking people to work with you, then you probably have something going in the right direction. And if you can't convince anyone to work with you, then you might rethink the idea. But it's just, it's the people. Like, you've got to get the right people. And it's not, I don't want to say right, like there's just wrong people and right people, but like, you've got to create and lead the people. It's like the difference between building a product and building a company. For the longest time, I thought I was building a product and that we were like going to try to keep selling this product. And now I think I finally realized, no, we're building a company. Yeah. The product comes out of the company, but you have to build the company. And so I guess as a simple piece of advice, it would be, keep in mind that you're building a company, you're not building a product.
So if people want to find out more about Company Cam, where can they find you, learn more information?
Yep, so companycam.com. And again, Company Cam is what amounts to a camera app for contractors. Makes it easier for contractors to take photos, document their work, and then communicate, draw on the photos, write messages. And our website is companycam.com. If you know any contractors, roofers, plumbers, pool builders, guys that install those big block things around your landscaping, what are those called? Pavers? Those guys would be awesome.
All right, well, we have some last call questions, so we need a last call.
You ain't got to go home, but you got to get up out of here. Last call!
We're going to have so many variations of that by the time we get through several episodes of the show. I feel like I need some rap music to transition us here. Okay, let's go with what would you do on your day off?
Golf.
So this is golf. Oh, that was quick.
Yeah.
Easy.
Sounds like this guy's doing that today. What makes you weird?
Ideas. I don't know. I have a whole bunch of like horribly weird opinions that I probably shouldn't share in front of the camera. That I watch lectures, college lectures at night, and I don't know. I love learning about new things to a point that is probably unproductive in my life.
Yeah, that's okay. I spent last night studying physics and acceleration, so we could talk later. The first real job you ever had?
First real job was roofing, cleaning up the ground. So, you tear off a roof and crap falls everywhere, and you got to have that guy down there picking all the little shingle pieces out of the flowers, and that was me, and I was awesome.
Let's do one more here. The most memorable Christmas present you ever got?
The most memorable, throwing knives. So my mom, I think I was like 22, let's say, and my buddy and I were going to go on this backpacking trip in Central America, and my mom got me from Shields like knives that are specifically meant to throw. Like you throw a knife, it spins and like sticks in a tree. Throwing knives, and then through some personal idiocy at the Dallas airport, I tried to go through the security. They like pull out these weird like ninja-looking knives, and they're like measuring them, and they're like 2 millimeters short. That kept me out of federal prison. So throwing knives are the most memorable Christmas present I've ever received.
Nice.
I do have one left. Can you talk about growing up in a family business and then now you're kind of blazing your own path? I have talked to several people that inherited a family business and they struggle with creating their own story.
Yep.
And so you're obviously branching out on your own and creating your own story. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot about just how to do things right from my dad, who runs White Castle Roofing, which is my family's business. And for me, it's a good business, but I wasn't passionate about roofing, you know.
Sure.
But I liked working there. I feel like I've grown up a lot in the 2 years since we've started Company Cam, and having that responsibility, like instead of saying, oh, like it's 4:30 and I kind of want to go golfing, so I'm out of here. Like, I'm not, like, it just feels different when it's your thing. But I learned a lot from my dad about like how to treat people, like how to run a business, like how you should think about serving the customer, and like kind of like a long-term thinking, you know, like, which is not totally natural to me to like make the plan that's going to be good in 10 years. Like, I'm kind of an opportunist when like little things come up. I'm like, yeah, let's do that. Whereas he and White Castle Roofing is very much, they're on a long-term basis. Like, you put a roof on someone's house, it can't leak for 25 years. Like, you can be pumped at the end of the day that like it all looks great, but you're playing a long game, and keeping that, like always thinking long-term, I think is one of the biggest things I've taken out of my family's business, which is that like you do things right over time, it will pay off. You just don't see it right in the moment. I just totally believe that you do business in the right way and it will pay off for you in the long run.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Luke.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Good
me.
luck with
It was
Company
nice
Cam.
talking to
It
you.
was awesome. Enjoyed it. Thanks for the beer.
Absolutely.
Old Sheckled Hen. It was quite fantastic.
Thanks for joining us today, guys. That was an interview with Luke Hansen from Company Cam. Please make sure you sign up for our email list. We're doing weekly giveaways. We're also on Facebook and Instagram at Bar Napkin Business. And barnapkinbusiness.co is our website.
It is. Check us out there. And if you have any questions or you have guest ideas for the show, please send us an email at show@barnapkinbusiness.co. You can find all that stuff on the website and social as well. So until then, we will see you next time.
You just have to trust that you're there and that you're in front of a cool door or whatever, like a
know.
portal.
I'm right behind you.
So all these, our building we used to be connected to your building underneath the street.
What?
Really?
This is where that door came
What?
from. So it's been cemented over now. After this is over, we'll take you down it. But
that
there's
is
tunnels that
awesome.
connected all these buildings.